So again, I brought a globe because I want to explain the date line over here and how to talk also with the Rosh Yeshiva. He wrote a whole kinteris about it, Rav Shochet. And I was mechaven to him because for years I was always puzzled why many Lubavitcher are not makpid, and he showed me in this thing the Lubavitcher Rebbe has a chumrah that many Lubavitcher don't know. It's printed in the tshuva here. But let me first start to explain this. You know, we need to have a dateline. Very simple. I just first explain why we need a dateline. See, right now, by us in LA, right now this is LA. This is the West Coast. So we have it, it's 9 o'clock in the evening. Okay? So if we go this way to Eretz Yisrael, all the way to Eretz Yisrael, it's 10 hours ahead. So it's 7 in the morning. 7 in the morning what? 7 in the morning, Tuesday morning. Okay? So now that's 10 hours. If I go 12 hours, it'll be exactly 9 o'clock in the morning, Tuesday. Okay. That means I go another 6 hours.
Or the other way around.
Or the other way around. Let's say I go first more. So is this going to be Tuesday? I mean, we need a place. Or now, if we go backwards, Hawaii is 3 hours before us. So we go this way, which is still 3 hours, it's 6 in the evening. And why? You go back. So this is, so the secular world went, and this was when the world was shrinking. As the world was shrinking, meaning to say the information, I forgot, I once looked it up in the 1850s, they decided, and that it's called GMT, right? Greenwich, what is it? Marine time. So they drew a line, and this is what they drew, and they drew a line, and it's, how you say in English, arbitrary, it's whatever you want. Any way you want. So they have a line with zigzags. It's not because they did it. Why did they do it over here? If you see, there's no mass. There's islands over here. So, you know, some cross it. It's just for practical. They don't care when Shabbos it is. What difference does it make? If you remember, in 2000, I remember this very clearly. In 2000, one of the islands decided to switch because they wanted to be the first one, 2000. They thought they could have a lot of tourism. So a year or two before that, they decided we are going to switch the day. So it didn't work out. Didn't pan out the tourism which they expected. There was an island over there which they bekitza. So the question is in Halacha, what do we hold? There's many shittas, but I first want to explain the famous Chazon Ish because the Rabbi does deal with it and gives it credence too. The Balamur, it's really a Balamur, and it's a Ritva and a Ram. It's a very complicated Gemara, so I'm not going to tell over the Gemara, but I'll just say the basic what the Gemara says. The Gemara Masechta Rosh Hashanah says that if you want to make Rosh Hashanah, the first day of Rosh Hashanah, you must have one place in the world where the moon is going to be a complete Rosh Hashanah, the new moon. See, if the new moon is before Chatzos, you know what the new moon is? You know, the moon has a cycle of 29 and a half days, 12 hours. Today we know it's 45 minutes, 3.3 seconds, approximately. That's approximately. But, you know, when the new moon is, so it could be, the new moon could be middle of the day, and we always figure out where it's going to be in Eretz Yisrael. So the Gemara comes out, according to Balamor, there has to be one place in the world where the new moon is going to be the whole Rosh Hashanah, not just part. And that's, he goes with the famous date line, the Balamur, and that's he explains the Gemara. So he says, he understood that it's 90 degrees from Eretz Yisrael. So you have this picture, you have this in front of you.
All the way to the left, that will be the Balamur.
The Balamur is the first green line, which is 90. You see there's a 90 on top over there? It's 90, you see there's a line, 90. That's 90 degrees. You know what degree means. And let me just make this clear. It's 360 degrees. If you divide it in 24, each hour is 30 degrees. So he held, the Balamur held, that it's 6 hours away from Eretz Yisrael. So let me explain something. If Friday night, 6 o'clock, becomes Shabbos in Eretz Yisrael, 6 hours east of Eretz Yisrael, which this is east of Eretz Yisrael, you see this line? This is east of Eretz Yisrael. That's midnight, exactly midnight, and wherever this is. You follow what I'm saying? So if it's, as I explained, if it's exactly Friday night, 6 o'clock, it gets dark, you go, in the article I noticed, he says Bovel is 36 minutes away from Eretz Yisrael. That means if its sunset was 6 o'clock, in Bovel it's 36 minutes later. If you go more, 6 hours later, it's going to be midnight. Okay? So it means Friday night, when the Hashem created the world, it was Friday night in Eretz Yisrael, but 6 hours later, it was midnight. So the Baal HaMor held at that place where it's midnight, that's where the dateline goes. That's 18 and 6 is 24. That's the Shmoyne Esr Shus, the 18 hours. You understand what I just said? So in this way, let me show you. Here is Eretz Yisrael. Find Israel. Israel is right here. Okay? So if Israel is right here, you go 6 hours this way, it's going to be midnight, which is the line that you see what goes through China, cuts through Australia, cuts through Australia. That line is exactly, if Eretz Yisrael, it's 6 o'clock in the evening, it's 12 o'clock. So that belongs to Eretz Yisrael. After the line, it's the day before.
In other words, if it's 12 p.m. in Eretz Yisrael, in this line, there's still going to be 24 hours until the end of the day.
The end of the day. The other side of this line. You understand what it is? That means it's 18 hours the other way around. See, that's... So now, the problem with this is, look at the map.
What is it based on?
Based on the Gemara. He learns the Gemara here. He learns in the Gemara that's Pshat. You should know that not only the Baal HaMor, the Ritva and the Ran all agree to that, and some bring down, they found the Ramban also says that way. I remember
Well,
that.
if they see the new moon after midday, that they cannot be Rosh Chodesh. Why? Because you need to have one place in the world where it's a Rosh Chodesh for the full 24 hours.
24 hours. That's how he learns Pshat in the Gemara. But I want to focus on this. So he held, this is the line. This is everyone. The biggest problem is that you look at the map, it cuts through Asia, cuts through Australia. So you could be one side of the street, get Shabbos, and I'm smoking. Or better, one leg in this side, one leg in that side. So this is, even the Baba Rebbe and the Shuva says, that is the difference, even though the Baal HaMor says it, and the Chazon Ish was very, very much, gave it their full credence. See, you know what happened in World War II? The Jews ran out of Europe and Russia. Many ran to Japan. From Japan, they went to Shanghai. In Japan is the problem where to keep. And in Shanghai too. You look at the map, I don't know, it doesn't say where Shanghai. Right. So now, the problem is that if it's cut right over here, you see where it's cut the line? We can't make one side of the street this way. So the Chazon Ish has a big chiddush, which is called greater. You know what greater means? It schleps it with it. How you say schlepping in English? Drags it with it. That means it drags Australia, the entire Australia becomes like Eretz Yisrael, this side of the date line. Because you're right, the 90-degree cuts, but since it's part of Australia is this way, it drags the entire Russia also. The top is Russia, that's China, the other is Philippines, it cuts through. Whatever, it just cuts it this way. But if it's an island, it doesn't. It doesn't cut it. Okay? This is the Chazon Ish. You see the line?
Yeah.
So according to the Chazon Ish, it's called greater. We bring the whole thing over to this side. I did make copies.
In other words, you stop what's today.
Yeah, you schlep everything, right.
In other words, every on that line, everything which is west of the line, you're schlepping it to the east.
Right.
For
Correct. Correct. Right.
So if you were leaving on a boat from Australia, you'd be Sunday and you might be moving to Shabbos.
Right. What I mean, according to Chazon Ish, the dateline will be at the beaches of Australia. If the dateline is in the beaches of Australia, that means you go swimming Sunday, becomes Shabbos.
Yeah.
This is what this didn't bother the Lubavitch Rebbe in this in Tshuva. He wrote a Tshuva about him, Tushi and Tess. Bothered him, which all the Gedolim bothered. He didn't say ignore it, because I have the Tshuva in front of me. He says we have to worry about these three shittas. The Chazon Ish takes as a Syria, but we can't rely totally because it doesn't make sense. It's very difficult. He says that's shitta number one. Okay. According to this, now according to the Chazon Ish, very, very important, Australia is, you know what time I have it on my phone? I left my phone in my car. You know, Australia, I don't know, take a look at Australia. You know, it's very easy to have the smartphones. Australia is really tomorrow. What time is it?
2:18.
2:18 what?
p.m.
It's 2:18 p.m. That's what they keep. I'm gonna say, and that's Australia. And how about Auckland, New Zealand? It's 2 hours before, 3 hours before. What did you say? So right now in New Zealand, it's Tuesday at 12 o'clock midday. 12 o'clock midday. According to Chazon Ish, New Zealand is not 12 o'clock midday Tuesday, it's 12 o'clock midday Monday. You remember that? So according to Chazon Ish, in New Zealand has a different, is a big problem. So is...
So is Japan. You're kidding? So is Japan, so is China.
Well, Chazon Ish, yes. Let's focus New Zealand, it's much easier. I'll get to Japan, it's more complicated. So according to Chazon Ish, and there is a Chabad house in New Zealand.
That's right. Here you can see New Zealand.
New Zealand.
And the 180.
See New Zealand?
Yeah, to the right of Australia.
Yeah.
New Zealand is on 135.
Now this picture is not very accurate. I have another picture. Let me just go. So this is one opinion. The second opinion, which the Lubavitch Rebbe says you should take into consideration, is Tuchinski. Can't even pronounce his man. He was a big Guan Oilam before the war, and he disagreed with the Chazon Ish, and he says it's 12 hours away from Eretz Yisrael, not 6. It's just 100. According to him, it's 180. You see where it's 180?
Right.
You see all the way to the right, all the ways. Where it's 180. You have the picture. You see it's 180. The last one, it says Kif Pei Mal. You see in top it says 180. The last line.
The opposite side of Eretz Yisrael.
So he withheld the Gemara. He says that the Balamur, he disagrees, and he brings other Shem disagreed. He based it on other Habris Oilam. The bottom line is, he says it's 12 hours. He says, why should it be 6? It should be 12 hours from Eretz Yisrael. 12 hours this way, 12 hours this way. Many liked his opinion. Because 12 hours, you understand what 12 hours? That means if it's Friday night, 6 o'clock in Eretz Yisrael, 12 hours later is 6 in the morning, that belongs to Eretz Yisrael. From there, it's 180 degree. Right now it cuts it, the way you see the picture, it's the 100. Now, if you follow that opinion, New Zealand belongs to New Zealand. New Zealand is okay. Problem is Hawaii is not okay.
And Alaska.
And Alaska is not okay. Alaska is a terrible problem.
You're reading the other side of the date line.
You see Alaska?
Oh, yeah.
Let me tell you an historical fact about Alaska. You could look this up. I found it in a few years ago, and I looked it up on the... You could ever Google it. You should talk to Google and it'll bring you down information. Alaska was bought from Russia. You know that.
Yeah, it's true.
So when Alaska belonged to Russia, they kept the date in Alaska like Siberia, that side of the date line. So when America bought it, Alaska, in 1850, whatever, I don't know when they bought it, so they switched the day in Alaska. It's going to follow mainland Canada. Isn't amazing? Just amazing. Now, according to Tushchinski, Alaska is a problem. Now, I asked Rabbi Shochet, and he was shocked what I showed him. I showed him in the Shuvah, which, Baruch Hashem, you send it to me, with the... It says in this long tshuva, he has a very long tshuva about Shirab, and he says, but Alaska, he wrote in Tufshin Tes. What is Tufshin Tes? 1949. He writes, in Alaska, I don't know what to tell you. Alaska is two opinions. So I asked Rabbi Shochet, how come there's a Chabad house there?
I don't know, he wrote many other things later.
He said he looked it up. He called me back, doesn't find. He called me back. He has another tshuva, he told me, he looked up that tshuva. Doesn't talk about Alaska. But he has a kasha because let me explain to you why there is a shticker about.
Just to be clear, I'm a little confused. So you're saying we start from Eretz Yisrael is the point that we go 12 hours in either direction?
That's it.
This is the second opinion. Second opinion holds it's 12 hours. If it's 12 hours, the date line is, you see the green line at 180 degree, cuts Alaska.
So that space between, that's an unknown space, the space for Alaska.
I don't know.
Well, I mean, oh no, that Alaska is not Monday now. Alaska should be Tuesday night.
Based on what it is now, assuming Eretz Yisrael is Monday night.
Yeah.
Alaska should be Tuesday night, which would mean that
Right now, it's Monday.
even though the Goyish clock says it's
Yeah.
Monday, we should look at it as Tuesday,
Right.
which means Shabbos would be on Sunday.
Right, exactly. Exactly. Because that's the Tushchinski. This is the second opinion. So there's a 6, and there's the third opinion, now, is in the middle. See, wait a minute, but according to this, Hawaii is a major problem.
It's not a problem, it's also clear. No, Hawaii is on the other side of the day.
So Hawaii is not 6:30 Monday. Hawaii is 6:30 Tuesday.
18 hours, yeah.
It's Tuesday. According to Tushchinski, Hawaii is not 6:30 now Monday evening. It's 6:30 Tuesday.
Correct, it's 6 hours,
You follow?
18 hours later.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not 6 hours early, it's 18 hours later.
Then these are the two shittas, and the third shitta he says is 145. That is Rav Shapiro, 145.
Here is a Koopman base. It's 142.
You know,
155. We have the 158. It's always a little shit up. Here you can see the Goyish date on also.
One second. Where's 145? How come I don't find it?
It's the curve one.
The curve one. Yeah, approximately the curve one is 145.
The one is better or the Goyim made it down.
Yeah. So that's about 145. So if you the third shitta based on something totally, he also based it on this, but I was going to say it over. It's too complicated. He bases it on a famous kasha with the Rishonim deal. It says v'erev v'voike yom echad, v'erev v'voike yom sheni, and when did the Rebbeinu Shem put up the sun? Yom Revi.
Tuesday night.
Tuesday night, the night of the. So he bases when it was a whole cheshbon he makes, and according to him, it's approximately here, 145 days.
With the curve or not?
With the curve.
Why the curve?
It's just because the world is rounded. He holds the world. It's round, so it's a little bit curved. That's his opinion.
We want it 180 degrees. Really
Yeah, he has it curved because again, because the he has a whole chiddush because the way the Rebbeinu Shem had under the sun. It's I was going to say it over and I was going to read it over. Didn't have a chance. It's very complicated that opinion how it worked. So, but the Lubavitcher Rebbe says these are the three shittas. He says the other shittas don't make sense, which is true. The other opinions absolutely don't make sense. So he says how to begin the beginning. You should follow two of these three. So following two of these three comes out New Zealand will be, according to the two opinions, like Australia. Hawaii will be Taka like America, two of the three. Because according to the Chazon Ish and the second shitta, Hawaii will be like America. Where is Hawaii?
It's in Hawaii.
Aye.
Hawaii.
This is not so accurate. I have a more accurate one. It's Mamish Hawaii is on the other side. Yeah, this is the other side. This is so according to this, Hawaii is the other side. So Hawaii is good. What is the major problem? So everything is good. So far, so good. My only problem is Alaska. Because now coming back to Alaska should be the two opinions. So Alaska would be like America.
No, because you mentioned that the concept of Gereda is even if it's going to be according to the Kufpei Milas, but because of the din of Gereda,
Alaska has the two shittas, is according to two shittas belongs to America.
But even according to the shit of Kufpei, right, according to the shit belongs to America.
Yeah, the Rabbi didn't like the grade, but the two shits belongs to America. But still he writes, I don't understand. He writes in this tshuva, Alaska, I don't know what to say to you. That's what writes to the shoyel. And I don't understand because he says you should follow two of the three opinions. Anyways, that so far is so good. The biggest problem is, which I don't know if you, about 13 years ago, maybe it was a little bit more, two shluchim arrived in the airport on Shabbos. With Tamidim, I don't want to say the name of it.
In Alaska.
No, in LAX. They left Motzei Shabbos.
From where?
From I think either New Zealand or Melbourne or Sydney, and they landed on Shabbos. And I remember then the Rabbi Shochet was furious. So I called him up. I says, I have a few boys, even one's a shliach from Australia, and he tells me in the Australian one, the Chabad never tells them anyway, you're not allowed to travel. Because according to this, while you're traveling, it becomes Shabbos. No question about it. According to two shittas for sure. If you hold the two of the three have to be machmer, it surely, I looked it up before I came here. On my on the app, that if you leave 9 o'clock Sunday morning, you arrive Motzei Shabbos morning 6:25.
Shabbos morning.
No, if you leave Sunday, you leave Sunday morning 6:25. It's a 13 and a half hour flight. It's about 14 hours the flight, and if you make a cheshbon, you go over the date line.
So 12 hours early.
So after about 8 hours, you go over two of the date lines for sure, the international date line for sure. So according to that, people fly and they do everything on the flight. So the Frum in Australia do not travel Sunday, only Sunday afternoon. You understand? I have a guy who asked me this question. Every few months he has to travel to Hyundai, he was one of the lawyers in Hyundai. This is what is it called? South Korea, and South Korea is in that side. So while he's traveling, it becomes Shabbos. But he tells me he takes sleeping pill and he sleeps 8 hours straight. He makes sure that he goes over this thing. But I saw the Moshe in the Tshuva says not to do it, and the Lubavitcher Rebbe has a big chiddush. In this Tshuva he writes, if you're going, and Tuvshi and Test, that we're going with boats. If you're going with a boat, you must be machmer all the shittas till you land. That's his words. I showed it to Rabbi Shochet. He was also a little bit surprised about it, but that's what he writes. Yeah? What did you say?
It's another week.
Another day. No, you're traveling now and you hit the date line. Since you didn't come to your bush, I mean, read his words. When you're in a boat, he says, everything that was written, he writes, is the land. But if you're on a boat, there's no land, you must be machmer the date lines of each of the shittas, which is plainly the same thing. So this is why if you leave Australia Sunday, you could get into trouble. I went to a wedding, one of the babat in my shul, and I only left Australia 3 in the afternoon. I made a cheshbon. If you leave 3 in the afternoon, I remember them making a cheshbon, but this goes about 14 years ago. I made a cheshbon that it wouldn't be a problem. But otherwise, according to Chazon Ish, as soon as you leave Australia, according to Chazon Ish, you go into the ocean and become Shabbos.
Correct.
And according to the other shitta, it's closer to the date line, it's later. So if you leave Sunday morning, which very many do leave, There's a flight, the 9 a.m. flight. Many people do leave. So in the middle of flying, it becomes Shabbos.
During those hours, you can't open the light.
Yeah, but people are not, and I saw the Moshe in the Tshuva says not to avoid to doing this because it's impossible. People
Can't go to the bathroom.
can't go to the bathroom.
You can't lock.
Today, everyone has tchotchkes. You got to have your iPhone, your iPad, what is it called, the pad and the tablet, whatever. People don't travel without
You get it in the road of Tshuva. I lived in Hong Kong, so I had a lot of Tshuvas on this. And if people used to leave Matzah Yom Kippur, Matzah Tisha B'Av, they used to fly back to America.
Hong Kong is mainland, right?
We kept Hong Kong. No, it's on the other side.
It's an island, but it's just.
Hong Kong is not an island.
No, Hong Kong is not mamash connected, but it's connected to China.
Yeah, it's an island, Hong
It's
Kong?
a total island.
The Hong Kong that is
It's
mamash
part-
island.
There's about 8 main islands. Hong Kong's a bunch of islands. And part of it is the mainland. It's called Kowloon is the mainland.
Do you know where in the map it is?
South China.
You won't see.
Oh, I see it. I see. Oh, it's right here. Hong Kong. So it's an island.
There, parts of it are. Hong Kong's actually.
But it's not a problem. According to Chazon Ish, it's the other side of the Hong Kong. It's not a problem.
We kept the day the way
Like Asia.
like Asia keeps the day.
Yeah, even according to Chazon Ish, it is I have it's a little bit more accurate. And according to the Chazon Ish, Hong Kong is in the 6 hours.
Right.
So Hong Kong is not a problem.
If a person fasted on Tisha B'Av,
And he travels out.
go back.
So according to it takes.
Once you fast once, you don't have to fast again. You shouldn't eat the fares. You don't eat the fares.
Marasai.
Because the question was, according to Chazon Ish, you start flying out. According to Chazon Ish, after 2-3 hours, it becomes again Tisha B'Av. You understand? That's what happens.
It's going to be a half an hour.
What about Hanukkah?
Very fast.
No, the line is about, and it takes a few hours.
If Alaska, another side.
What about Hanukkah?
Hanukkah is where? Hanukkah is the same question, which day it is. I mean, it's also saying Shabbos is Chai V'Krisis. That's the biggest problem. So that's why Lubavitch, he explained to me, Rabbi Sheikhat, New Zealand, they hold like Australia because 2 of the 3 hold that way. And Hawaii, they hold like America because 2 of the 3 is Hawaii this way. Understand? It's not consistent.
So
It's not, the Lubavitch Rebbe didn't have shitta. He said, I accept these 3 opinions, and 2 of the 3 opinions you should follow.
So if a person's a Litvish person, he's keeping Shabbos differently than everybody else in Hawaii?
They don't go there. They don't travel.
It depends. The Litvish who follow the Chazon Ish have no problem. They really don't have a problem.
No, they don't go there. I think I know.
The ones who follow Rabbi Yashiv says you have to be machmer both chumras. He held that you have to machmer the Chazon Ish and Tushitzinski. So according to that, Hawaii is a problem.
So if you follow that and you go into Hawaii, you're keeping Shabbos on
Wrong Shabbos.
Don't go there. Don't go there. You don't go there.
If someone does, if someone practically does.
So the ones who want to be machmer don't do Friday. It's Friday, and that's Sunday.
Shabbos and Sunday.
Shabbos on Sunday they don't do a malacha.
So they keep 2 days Shabbos?
But they have to
Yeah.
do it.
What about Tefillah?
The tefillin is not such a problem you put on. That's not such a problem. Problem is not to do a malacha. That's the problem. It shouldn't be
Which
mecha.
day is officially Shabbos?
Officially Shabbos is what we have Shabbos. But if it might be day, not Sunday, it might be Friday. I'm sorry, it might be Friday. Because according to the Shitta, Hawaii is like Australia.
So Friday.
It's Friday and Shabbos, the question.
So if you're following that shita, then Shabbos is Friday.
Right.
And Shabbos is not really Shabbos. You're
Right.
just doing it.
But there's 2 shittas. In the Bnei Torah was this way. Some followed the Chazon Ish, finish. Many held the Chazon Ish is right. Because even the Lubavitch Rebbe explains it in the Tshuva. The bottom line is the Chazon Ish based it on the Balamor. It's based on the Gemara. It just was so difficult because they claim, historians claim the map which the Balamor had there was no land after 6 hours. It was an ocean. They produced such maps that there was known that was created then. But it's very hard to cut the land in the middle. That's the problem. So somehow it doesn't make a difference. You follow the Chazon Ish no matter what. So they don't have a problem. The Tushchinsky holds the other opinion. It's 12 hours.
There's many little islands in that area.
Which where?
With Alaska. Alaska is a problem.
No. You mean not Alaska? You mean
New Zealand. I'm sorry.
you mean to say Tushchinsky?
Pacific, there's many different islands. So
Right. Oh yes, that's a problem. Those small islands is a problem. They're going to everyone. They're right. But Tushchinsky is a problem because he holds, if you want to go to Alaska, someone called me 2 years ago, his two of his daughters, one was 21, and two, they got incredible cheap tickets to go to Alaska in the summer. Something was a great sale, and they went. And he was asking me, what should they do? Because according to Tushchinsky, it's a problem. So I told him, the Iker is the Chazanish, and the Iker is, there's a Chabad house there, right? Fairbanks and Anchorage. What?
Just Anchorage. I don't think they asked for that.
No?
Isn't there an idea that once there's a frum community, if the only frum community is Chabad and they hold
No, there's no such a thing. That's no such a thing. The Rabbi Rebbe says also there's no such a thing. He says that's
I'm wondering the practicality. It's easy to say that they don't go, but there has to be Litvish people who go to Alaska or go to Hawaii or go to New Zealand or in those areas.
New Zealand, many people, after the war, World War II, there was a lot of Hungarians who settled in New Zealand. A huge community. Because New Zealand, if you know history, my father's Hungarian, my parents, New Zealand was the one who immediately gave visas and didn't ask any questions. You were a Jew, come, they were taking in everyone. They didn't, some of the others gave me a problem, the quota got away. New Zealand says, just come. So it was a large Jewish community, and they were very frustrated which to keep Shabbos. They all moved to Melbourne, the Fruma, the Shem Teremitzis. So about 2-3 years they was there, and for years there was nothing there, only non-religious Jews. For years, then the Chabad house just opened the place. A few years ago, not even so long ago.
My brother,
What?
20 years.
20 years ago, yeah. That was the first one 20 years ago, right? Yeah, something like that. But why was it? Because it was very confused. According to Chazon Ish, it's the wrong day Shabbos. So they didn't,
So let's say, I'm just trying to think practically. Let's say some guy follows Chazon Ish and moves to New Zealand. Then you have a Lubavitch moves to New Zealand. Is it okay that one guy's keeping Friday, one guy's keeping Shabbos?
There's not a Besdin. It's only when there was a Besdin Paskin. There is no Besdin that Paskin. So he wants to be Machmer, or he holds the Ikedat Shitta.
So does the person, the Lubavitcher only holds Shabbos. The Chazon Ish, he's keeping 2 days Shabbos, or does he keep?
No, the one holder the Chazon Ish will only keep the other day. He'll keep Sunday Shabbos over there.
Right. Sunday over there. So Shabbos, what we would call Shabbos, he would just do whatever.
Yes.
He's a day off.
Right.
So the same thing with Yom Tov.
Exactly. Pesach and Purim. Can't send me Shlachmanas. Wrong day.
That's right.
Since we have different opinions here, why can't we just make a base and make a stop?
Who's making a bezin? Who, what, when? That doesn't.
Why can't you have Rabbi in Israel?
It's some old machlokes. We don't have a shulchan. Even the Shulchan Aruch is never a psak. How does Shulchan Aruch work? We follow the majority of the opinions.
I mean, it's a major problem.
There is a major problem. Yes, that's why many people do not, besides the Babbage, many people do not want to settle in New Zealand. I have a guy who sometimes has to go to business. He makes sure he goes to New Zealand. He goes the days when there's no problem. I have, where's South Korea on the map? I'm sorry, I don't know the map well enough. I have a guy who goes to South Korea.
It's right there. Just north of Japan.
It's north of Japan?
Yeah.
Is it this little peninsula right next to the 90-degree line?
It's next, it's the middle, no? It's past the 90-degree, right?
Yeah, just to the right of the 90-degree line?
It's right of the 90-degree line.
I'm sorry, it's not. Yeah, it's right. I think it's right here.
Because I have someone, I looked it up once, a few years ago, oh, that's right. Where is, China? Oh, here's Korea.
Yeah.
So Korea is an island, what? Oh, it's connected. It's connected to mainland China.
Yeah.
Right.
I heard you share this years ago, I don't remember the details, but I remember quoting the Bush and coming to the conclusion that the halachic dateline was the same as the one the world uses, which is basically this middle line.
No. There is one shitta that holds that way. One thing. There's three shittas, main shittas. There are a lot of more, but most of the Chayin agree. The Rabbi Cherebosa writes. These are the three main shittas. Others ignore. And he says, if you have two of the three, that's what you should follow. See, the Rabbi Cherebosa didn't write something that he says. He didn't write his own opinion. This was the Machlokes area 100 years. I don't know how many years it started this whole question. So he said, do two of the three.
But ultimately, that resolution results in following the local date and the local time.
Not always.
Except where?
A lot of those islands you mentioned.
Not always. It's going to.
Alaska, Hawaii, New Zealand, those three major places, you're going to follow.
Hawaii is going to come out there, but let's say New Zealand also going to come out, right?
Fiji. Fiji is east of New Zealand.
Right. Fiji is east of New Zealand.
It's right on what's the international date line.
It's right at the international date line.
Right, so that's going to be a problem.
So the main thing is that let's say you want to fly to Hawaii, so you can't worry about Tuchinski, because if you're going to worry about Tuchinski, you can't go to Hawaii. You can't even fly there of Motzei Shabbos. Because why are you flying Motzei Shabbos? It's because, he holds that you look at the line. If you want to go to Alaska, you can't go.
To Shabbos because you go a day later. Go to Tuchinski instead of going 6 hours earlier, if I can.
Right, the Tuchinski is okay. Friday, you mean? You can't fly Friday. Right. So the main thing really is, which is very important, is you leave Sydney. If you leave Melbourne, you should not leave Sunday morning, because when you arrive in LA, your middle of traveling will be Shabbos.
So say you're flying, but the sun never sets, or you're in a place in the world where the sun doesn't set.
If you go to Australia, when I came from Australia, that's exactly what happened. What happened?
If you're going west to east, if you're going east to west, you're going with the sun.
Going with the sun.
Or you find yourself in a place in the world where the sun doesn't set.
That's another conversation. It's a whole different question.
But that's a separate issue. That means the North Pole, you mean, 6 months. That's a whole...
Is there, on one foot, can you tell me what...
Well, the Pharisee is the one who writes that you follow the sun. Over there, the sun goes around.
Correct.
So it's 6 times, whatever, it's going to change.
Still light, Shabbos is over, or Shabbos...
But he says which...
25 hours, just take 25 hours even though it's...
24 hours.
Days.
The biggest problem is if you go where do you say Chabad House was in Fairbanks? Where was it? Anchorage. I have a guy who goes to, works for the government, a geologist, and he has to go there. He asked me many years ago what to do, and he says it never really gets dark Motzei Shabbos. So I told him, at Chatzos, that's when it's Motzei Shabbos. That's what the Pharisee says in the Mishnayos. At midnight. It never gets dark. It gets summer. It never gets pitch dark, and it gets light. So he says at 12 midnight, their midnight, not the clock. The clock midnight is arbitrary, but it's just exactly when it's at. That's when it's Motzei Shabbos.
So when you start Shabbos?
Starting Shabbos is not a problem. It's light the whole time. The sun never really,
That's what he was asking. So how do you start Shabbos?
You start Shabbos
6 p.m., 7
2 hours before.
Until midnight on Friday.
Well, you don't have to start midday. The sun is still shining. You know what I mean?
32-hour Shabbos.
I remember how it works. It does set a little bit. It just takes it does set.
That's in Anchorage. If you go
Anchorage.
really far north.
Yeah, I'm talking about.
Correct. It can never set.
Yeah, people who work up in the oil rigs up in the North Slope, the sun doesn't set up for about 3-4 months of the year.
6 months it has to be.
You know that the Zohar is the one knew about the date line.
Who?
The Zohar speaks about it, and the Zohar speaks about that the world is round, and certain parts it is dark, certain parts it's light. The Zohar was people think the Zohar clearly, I see the Lubavitcher Rebbe quotes it also by Kitzur. The Zohar was known. He also said that places with 6 months is dark and 6 months is light. The Zohar clearly knew about it. Which, it's a chiddush. Those days no one knew about it. Even the scientists didn't know about it. It was discovered much, much, much later. Not about Alaska, not about the North one.
It talks about
The date line, yes, the Kazari and the Balamur and the...
Do you ever get a question from the kosher cruise lines? They do a trip to Alaska. I know that.
Yeah, but it's really not a problem because most people hold Alaska, we follow Alaska like, even like on the Lubavitcher Rebbe, it comes out Alaska should be like America because of 2 of the 3 opinions.
So is that generally?
That's how generally is accepted.
But it is an issue. If you take a cruise, let's say from Los Angeles to, 2-week cruise across the Pacific Ocean.
Right. Or you fly.
Flying is avoidable.
Yes, flying is
If you fly on
avoidable.
Monday, then you're fine. But if you decide to take a cruise and it's a 2-week cruise, going across the Pacific, you're
See, look, and then I want to explain something. What happened with Japan? If you see the map, Japan is an island. So, what the Chazon Ish did, the Chazon Ish held that you schlep the entire Australia, entire Asia on top into the time zone, which is before that. But how about Japan? Japan is an island.
Why would you stop?
So he said, you don't schlep Japan. And according to him, Japan will be a different date than they keep in Japan. This was the fiery fight during World War II. The Chazon Ish. Yes, the people, it's very funny. In history, I never understood as well. Japanese joined the Nazis, but they helped the Jews land in Japan. Do you know that? There were Jews who escaped Europe and came to Japan before the...
Japanese weren't really helping the Nazis. They were trying to take over the world themselves.
Right. But they allowed Jews come into Japan, and then the Jews left Japan and they went to Shanghai.
which was Japanese occupied.
It was Japanese occupied? Oh, that's why they went to Japan. So why did they leave Japan, for one?
The little Japan conquered the whole
Actually
China.
go through Japan. They actually went across Russia to Harbin, which is northern China, on the Russian-China border, and then they took a train south, right to Shanghai.
So Shanghai was controlled by Japan. Ah, that's why.
In Hong Kong. I know Juden that were alive when they went into the shuls in Hong Kong, the Japanese.
Well, I mean, they went in for what?
The little Japanese, like he said, like the Germans, they invaded, they conquered the whole China. They went all the way down.
Eastern seacoast to China.
The seacoast of China, with the Mao.
They're terrible.
So the problem was the islands of Japan. That was the biggest problem. Chazon Ish held that it's not included. It's on the other side of the date line. This was a huge question. Until today's date, people ask me who fly to Japan. I have a guy who's a physicist who flies to Japan every once in a while. And I always tell him to be machma.
But the Japan's on,
Two.
it's on one side of it's over 2 lines, so you're good.
Well,
If you accept this opinion.
if you so with the Lubavitcher Rebbe, then Japan is not a problem. Because it's 2 opinions, it is a problem. One
It's not a
second.
problem, because 2 opinions, it's not.
Yeah, it's 2 opinions, right. You have 2 opinions, right.
It's the opposite to opinions.
Yes, but it's opposite, but happens to work with the 2 opinions. See, that's that the chiddush is what bothers everyone, including the Lubavitcher Rebbe. He mentions the Shiur. How does the Gemara not talk about this? That's just how. So the simple answer was no Jews spread out so far. But we have in the Torah, everything has to be discussed, and this bothers everyone. This kasha.
The idea that Columbus didn't discover America yet.
Doesn't matter, just.
America was known long before Columbus.
Saying that.
It's discussed. It's discussed once we discuss where the sun was placed. That is discussed.
That's the Balamur. But if you don't learn like the Balamur and the Gemara, there is no place in Shas that it speaks about it. That bothers all the Achronim, Rabbi Rebbe is also bothered by this in the Tshuva, he says. It's very interesting that such an important thing should not be discussed. And according to the Balamud, that's because he learned Pshat in the Gemara that way. The other Rishonim don't, Rashi didn't learn that way, Tosfos didn't learn that way. The many Rishonim did not learn that way. So, some claim that's Sod Ibel. But let me explain what the Rabbi said. You know, the Gemara says there's a Sod Ibel. So the Rambam says it's not such a Sod. Because I'll explain you the math. The Rambam says the Chazal had a different way of calculating, but I went and studied Chachmei Mesoilam. You know what the Rambam says? I don't want you to study. The Rambam says, I'm saying, I'm very bright, I could do it. I studied, that's what he says. I started math, and I'll explain to you the math how they're going to do it, and it's very simple. So about the Sod Ibir. The Sod Ibir was, many claim there's many other things that's Negeya.
Sod Ibir is because before Hillel made a calendar, they didn't want this to be known, because if it will be known, they didn't want even to have two different calendars. They were trying to avoid this.
Well, they didn't know about this. I mean, it's very funny.
This is hard to say, because once you discuss where the sun was put in the sky, the Kufam.
Yeah, some claim that that's why it's not mentioned. Some do claim that. I have seen that. So, B'kitzer, if you go to New Zealand, you have to remember it's a question, and you go to Hawaii is a question, and Alaska is a question. And the only reason is we keep 2 out of the 3. So New Zealand, you have 2 out of the 3, and Alaska, you have 2 out of the 3 that we keep it, and Hawaii, the way we keep it, is also 2 out of the 3. That's what you're doing. But flying out of Melbourne and Sydney, that's a big problem. Because while you're flying, you're crossing the date line. You know, the other shit is almost at the date line. So while you're flying, let's say you leave Sunday morning, and let's say it's a 13-hour flight. I looked it up. It's about 14 hours direct flight. So after, I think 8 hours it is, after 8 hours you hit the date line. It becomes Shabbos.
The end of Shabbos.
Yeah, there's about
If you leave Sunday noon, by the time you get there,
Sunday in the morning, it's still Shabbos while you're flying.
you're playing for a few hours.
So about a few hours. Someone told me, I sat down once and calculated, it was a few hours Shabbos. So Rabbi Shoicha told me that he tells the people, and he spoke to in Australia to the people, and they don't listen.
They listen to him, that's not true.
He says they fly, he told me himself, how come they fly? He says, I don't know. I said to them so often, not to fly Sunday morning. That's what he told me, he tells them.
But wouldn't the problem be landing on Shabbos?
That is not, if you really fly from New Zealand early, you land on Shabbos.
But if you're going to go fly through Shabbos for an hour of your flight, is that?
But where do you fly that way? If you're coming from New Zealand, that might happen.
If you leave at noon on Sunday, you're going to hit Shabbos an
Right.
hour before sunset.
Right.
Right? You're going to have 1 hour of Shabbos, and then you're going to keep
Yeah,
doing
the problem is that people don't realize that hour you cannot use the bathroom, you cannot, there's so many Mechalot Shabbos.
It's not L'chatchila.
But it's a little bit, they do chilum, no one, that's so, I spoke to people who flew, kept the cheshbon. Did you keep a cheshbon? Tell me honestly, you kept a cheshbon? You know, guy in my shul, his in-laws lived, they went with his whole children, can I know, you know, I mean, it's very difficult. Anything else about the dateline?
Well, we once talked about this with flying the other way. I remember with Jonathan Osoro, we were talking about he was going to Hong Kong and flying back, I think, from Hong Kong to here, or leaving at, say, noon on Friday. So the same problem exists. Or Sydney to here
He
on
takes off
Friday.
Friday afternoon.
Friday afternoon.
He lands in Friday morning.
Right, he leaves Friday Hancock, the middle becomes Shabbos,
Right.
and then it can, that's the same problem. I have a person who told me the same thing. He has to leave, he works for Hyundai and he has to leave Fridays. He has to be there from Monday to Friday. And it's a problem because you middle get Shabbos, and then you keep cheshbon. If you keep according to Chazanish, it happens quite quickly. It's not such a problem. If you hold like Lubavitcher Shitta, then you have to wait till you hit about the date line.
Correct.
So if a guy leaves, what's his name? Friday becomes Shabbos. For a while it's going to be Shabbos, and then becomes again Friday.
Unless you follow the chazan.
Right.
Because then you're going to be,
how many times you have to daven twice on Thursday?
And if you want to eat, you have to make kiddush on the plate.
Yeah.
Right? If you want to eat, you got to make kiddush again.
Well, we talked about the tea
And you have to make Havdalah.
So see, all this. Let me just say, all this is not such a major problem. We're talking about the Rabbanans. Sov Kasov, you kept Shabbos. Havdalah's a Rabbanan. Kiddush probably you don't have to make kiddush, but yeah, because it's a kiddush already. You made kiddush. Yeah. But the melucha is very serious. People, write. People listen to the iPhone and whatever the music, and that's very bad.
Is there an atmospheric distinction?
The Babich Rebbe says no.
When they fly, it's a longer route, but because they're following the
Great circle.
the circle, right? So when you go to Israel, right, you're flying up to Iceland and then back down.
When we go to Australia, they don't do that. And if I asked someone,
But the hypotheticals we use space travel. If someone is able to go beyond the curvature to fly
okay,
someplace, it will significantly shorten the trip.
right? So what is the question?
You're going to change.
So.
You're leaving the date.
Same thing?
No longer subject to a date.
It goes by longitude.
Why not? It goes by the longitude. Why wouldn't that be? It works with the longitude, so it doesn't.
Latitude doesn't matter, it's going up or down.
It's going up and down that matters. It matters in the line. You understand? It matters on this way.
Directly over.
It matters on the line going this way.
So a person's from Jews an astronaut. He goes up to space for a week. He keeps. No, being serious. These are coming.
But when they blew up the thing, and he was Yid.
Religious, but
He asked.
That's right. Very famous. Right.
They told him they should keep Shabbos because he was in Florida and he was in a Chabad house. So they told him that they should keep Shabbos there from where he went, where he came from.
Every orbit to whatever it is.
You can't every 90 minutes to daven now. Every 90 minutes, Shabbos is not a night.
So in the Philippine Islands is a problem. You see it. That's according to Chazanish, it's a problem. That opinion.
Many people live there. People are living all over the place.
Philippine Yidden live there in Philippines. Vietnam is connected, right?
It's connected.
What is in the bottom of it? Is Saigon over there? What is that?
That's Vietnam.
That's Vietnam?
It's below that when you get to Indonesia.
That's
But
Indonesia.
Indonesia is cut by the 6-hour line.
So Indonesia, there are Jews who live there?
Yeah.
There's a Chabad house there?
No, they live in the apartment.
But they live in, that's on Java, so that's not a problem, because that's already, before you, 90 degrees, it's less than 90 degrees.
It's before the 90 degree.
Yeah.
And there's another country, how's it called, where it's extremely clean. I had a neighbor who lived there.
Also goes to the dateline.
Not Guinea. Singapore. Where's Singapore on the map?
Not a problem.
Singapore is connected to Malaysia.
It's about 70 degrees.
Oh, so it's also not a
Not a
problem.
problem.
Okay.
Many people live in
A
there.
lot of Singapore.
I have a neighbor, a guy told me that his very close friend was an Orthodox Jew, a businessman. They did a lot of business together in Singapore.
There's a yeshiva there.
So the main thing I want to bring out, that if you do fly, you have to remember this. Mainly, it's always flying from Australia, coming this way, coming from Japan this way, where you encounter this problem. That's the main time you encounter this problem.
On a Friday or a Sunday, but on a Wednesday or Tuesday.
Yeah, but I'm saying most people that's this Yontif, right? The Pesach. Lots of people flew back Sunday. When was Pesach this year? This year Pesach was Monday.
Pesach was
But
Tuesday,
it's
Wednesday.
a different problem also, because then you have the problem with spherical.
That's the Babich Rebbe's Chiddush, which the world didn't accept. I'm just saying, but Shabbos is a problem. He told me that Sunday when he left in the afternoon, I don't remember which Sunday, but he left in the afternoon, and he knows lots of people left Sunday morning,
From there coming back here.
coming back. And I told you, Rabbi Shoichet, I remember this many years ago. Two Chabad Bochanim landed, two Shluchim Chabad landed in LAX Shabbos afternoon. He was furious. They made a mistake. I know someone who flew to Australia and he landed Friday Ben Hashmoshes. He didn't realize there's a problem with a dateline. He's an educated man. I was shocked when he told me afterwards. He went for business there. And he was annoyed that he told the guy when he's flying out of LA, didn't tell him anything. He, you know.
So LAX, they just spent the Shabbos. What did they do?
Yeah, I don't know. I just remember Rav Shechet was furious at them because they did things, they thought that they kept Shabbos already, they're allowed to do everything, something like that. It's people don't know. You have to educate. That's what I'm saying. It's very important to educate people because people don't know. I had a guy told me he's flying, was going to what's his name? Didn't think about it, also flying back. I forgot where he was. Also went for a honeymoon for one of these places and there was a problem. Where do people go on honeymoon? Where is it? No, not Hawaii. Someplace further out.
Tahiti?
Where's that?
Tahiti would have been. Also, it's further than Hawaii, further west.
Where is it on the map?
It's further west than Hawaii.
But it's still the islands.
Still the islands, yeah.
Still the islands. All right.